to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. Jess and Matt are joining me as we continue to talk about Roger Penske and everything else in the IndyCar news this week. We'll start off with our show sponsor for the day, Craft 1861, your all-natural CBD products for your health and wellness. If you go to their website, craft1861.com, and use promo code PLP40, you can get 40% off. So before we continue on with the news this week, I'll say a quick remembrance to Dr. Michael Ollinger, who passed away the other day. He was IndyCar's medical director from 2006 to 2018. So our thoughts are with his family, and hopefully everybody's doing okay.
Yeah, we're just hoping everybody's doing well, and he will definitely be missed within the IndyCar paddock. But moving on, we had a lot to talk about last week. Obviously, we moved our show up to Monday to record and released on Tuesday. So if you guys are listening to this, hopefully you enjoyed that episode. And we got some more nuggets that are being released from the deal for Penske to buy IMS, IndyCar, such. And Mark Miles spoke with Rob Miller, and he now states that he is now the CEO of Penske Entertainment. So obviously, since Holman and Company no longer owns the IndyCar, then we figured there'd be a title change for Mark Miles. But now he's the CEO for Penske Entertainment, so good for him. And Roger Penske told Robin Miller that he has great appreciation for Jay Fry and all that Jay Fry is doing. And the Holman and Company will still exist, and they still do own some properties. I think Terre Haute is one place where they do own properties. But, so much has happened within the last week. No breaking news today or yesterday, which is kind of weird since we had 2 straight weeks of kind of chaotic news. But what are you guys' thoughts about the Penske Indianapolis deal 1 week later?
I'm still surprised. I still feel like last Monday was like some sort of weird blur. But I'm more and more positive the more that, different news articles come out and Mark Miles speaks with Robin Miller. Him as CEO of Penske Entertainment is great for Mark to, continue on, working in this role for Penske / IndyCar. So I don't think there's been anything that has popped up in my mind as a negative at all.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't think I've seen any news or any rumors or speculation of things that are going to happen that are necessarily bad at all. I, like you said, still surprised, still kind of trying to wrap my mind around it. Heard he's coming back in, I think, probably about a week now. He's going to freeze when he gets here. But I'm glad to see that he's wanting to be involved. He went and had breakfast at Charlie Brown's the morning after the news came out, and that was a big deal. It's good to see him kind of out and about in the community and wanting to improve things. So I think it's going to be positive in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything so far that's been coming out has been positive. I think the key figures within the deal and people like Doug Bowles and other figures outside of the deal are all saying the right things. And I think as a whole, it sounds like a lot of positives. One quick comment that he made that I want to get your guys' take on was he said that the formation of kind of that CART IRL split was such a disastrous thing that happened to open wheel racing. Is it at all refreshing for you guys to kind of hear him, all these years later, to step back and say, wow, that was such a bad thing that we did?
I think everybody has said it at one point or another, maybe not quite as outward as that, but it's nice to hear the words spoken, but I think the sentiment was already there.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that. Yeah, I get it. I agree with it. We've probably all said it at some point or another recently, but honestly, not really a big deal to me at this point. And I'm more worried about the future of IndyCar and not looking to the past.
I was just surprised because, most people are quick to jump on Tony George and for him to kind of say like, oh yeah, Kart, I think we kind of screwed that up. To me, it's kind of refreshing because, people like myself like to jump on Tony George, but for other people to kind of take responsibility as well was a refreshing take to hear. And then as far as, again, lots of opinions came out after the deal was announced. And as far as I can tell, I haven't seen one driver or team owner or any key figures really come out and say that they're not in support of this deal. Is that a really good sign for the sport, for IndyCar, for Roger Penske? Is that a good sign that everybody seems to be positive about this deal moving forward?
Yeah, everybody's come out, whether it's been on another interview or, tweets have come out, Marco tweeting that he spoke to Roger on the phone for 40 minutes. Things like that make me feel very happy and really excited for the future of IndyCar, that Roger Penske is reaching out to all the drivers, talking for half hour, however long it may be. So I think he's going to take their input seriously, which is just leaves me feeling even better than I did a week ago.
Yeah, that's very telling on his part to be calling everybody and talking to everybody and getting their input and just kind of setting their mind at ease also. But I also think that everybody has to look at it from the point of how well he's done in his other business ventures and think that he's also going to put that kind of effort into this one. He's not going to come in here and, just throw caution to the wind or anything just crazy. He's going to think about things and do everything from a business standpoint. And I think that everybody has faith that he's going to do right by the series and right by the speedway also.
Yeah, I'm really just happy that he's keeping Jay Fry around. I think that's great for the sport. And like Jess said, I really hope he brings his winter jacket whenever he returns to IMS because it looks about as miserable there as it does in Minnesota right now. So that's no fun for anybody at the moment.
It's 8 degrees right now.
I have to check. It didn't make for a good birthday when it was as cold as it was today.
Oh yeah, happy birthday.
We're terrible co-hosts. We totally forgot to start the show with happy birthday, Matt.
I meant
okay.
to.
There was Penske things to be had.
I even didn't say it on social media specifically to say it on here, and then I forgot.
It says 1 degree. If you can see real feel 1. Yeah, that's.
Oh no, I'm talking about the actual temperature here.
Oh boy,
8 degrees.
It's 17 right now, so I guess maybe I should stop my whining. Give me some craft oh my gosh. I should get some craft singles with my wine.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, that cake. You should get that craft single cake. That made me gag.
Who posted? Was that?
That was Frenchie.
Okay. Thanks, Michael.
Yes.
I will take my craft single cake and eat it too.
Okay, well, while you're eating your craft single cake, let's move on to our next topic of news for the past week. Jack Harvey, going to be full-time. I think most people are pretty excited, but if you haven't heard, Jack Harvey and Meyer Shank Racing are going to have a partnership with Andretti Autosport for the 2020 and 2021 season, and he will be a full-time driver. So it should be kind of similar to what Harding Steinbrenner did this past season with technology and engineering staff and things like that. So do you guys think that this helps Harvey become a championship threat?
100%. And I'm going to go as far as a hot take to say that I think he instantly becomes a top 8 championship contender. I think as talented as he is with what I saw from him in Indy Lights, I always feel like the potential's been there. Wasn't entirely sold on the team he was with Meyer Shank. And then, as the deal they had with Schmidt-Peterson, I'm not sure up until this year. I think this year I feel like they got a fair shake, but the last couple of years or his deal with Andretti Autosport at the Indy 500 when Alonso was there in 2017, I just feel like it wasn't there as far as equipment or, behind the scenes or whatever. now I think, he's getting as good of equipment as you can get. And I think that combination with his talent, the equipment, the engineering staff, I legitimately think he's going to be a threat at least the road courses. I'm curious to see how he's going to look in the ovals, but I have really high hopes for Harvey now.
I don't know about top 8. I think that's what you said. I'm going to go top 12. I think he's definitely got a chance to be in that top half or top third of, all the drivers that compete in 2020. But yeah, I think he won the Freedom 100 in 2015, I think. So he's shown progress on ovals before. There's no reason to think he doesn't contend for multiple podiums throughout the season next year. So I don't know if it makes him a championship threat. Does it make him does the better equipment help his chances and maybe make him a better driver being around all of the other Andretti resources, Andretti drivers? Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, I will kind of lean toward what Mike said. I don't know that he's a championship threat. Definitely top half of the field for sure. And I also think that he's got a real chance at like the GP of Indy. Obviously, he did so well there before. So I think he's got a real chance at a few races for sure. Do I think he's going to come out the gate and be up there fighting for a championship? That might be pushing it a little bit, but it's going to be fun to watch for sure. And then with this news, also, we have to look at the Andretti side of things. So do you guys think that they are going to stretch themselves even more and get a 7th car for the 500?
Man, I have heard that, the Connor Daly rumor was if he couldn't find a full season ride next year, that Andretti would open up a 6th car for him for the month of May. Do they stretch it to 7? I feel like that's super unlikely. That's a lot. That's you're also talking about almost a third of the cars. I don't know. I'm going to go with no. I think running 7 cars would be a disservice to Connor.
I think, we're going to touch later on the show about if there is 7 cars, a possible name attached to one of those. I think they will. I do think that 7 cars isn't out of the question for them. And I can't remember what year, but I think like Dick Simon ran like 5 or 6 cars at Indy one year, which was insane. And back then that is unheard of. I mean, Andretti's been running 4 or 5 cars in Indy every year for the last 5-10 years now. So I do think 7's within their realm, and I do think they will do it, especially since technically the Herta cars from equipment from Harding Steinbrenner, technically, and then now Jack Harvey's technically Meyer Shanks. I still think they have a car somewhere stashed away.
I mean, could they? Yes. I believe they could come up with a car, a good driver, and the right team to make it at least semi-competitive. Should they? Probably not. I think they need to kind of start to reel it in a little bit and focus on what they've already got going on and just really give it a good go again. I don't know. I just think 7 is kind of stretching it.
And before I move on here, I'm pretty sure, and I think, some of our elder fans might be able to know this, but I'm pretty sure some guys in the 50s and 60s and team owners actually ran or entered, 10 or 11 cars. So, I mean, if you're going by, has it been done before? Yeah, sure. I just don't remember what team owner it is. And I know I read it this morning. So, maybe somebody out there with some knowledge can help us out. But with that being said, I'll jump into some Patreon shout outs here. Thank you, Colin Taylor. Thank you, David Lighting. Also, thank you for being the only person worse than me in fantasy football. And thank you to Jason Camps. So with that being said, I will jump We will do Jess's Joker Lab first before I stump the host. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself.
All right, guys. I feel like it's been a minute since we've done a Joker Lap. For those of you who don't know, who don't talk to me on Twitter all the time, follow me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, you may have missed that I got a new puppy this past weekend, and Mr. Puppy is currently name free, and we can't have a name free mascot on Pit Lane Parlay. And he is going to be a mascot. We have already discussed it. He is going to be traveling to several races next year. So he will be getting his little PLP t-shirt and his little, I don't know, IndyCar hard card or something. He will be at the races to greet all of you guys. So my question tonight is, I want you guys to come up with a good mascot name for the PLP puppy. By the way, the puppy is a all black pug. He is absolutely crazy right now. So there you go.
How about Pit Lane Parlay Dog?
Wow. Alrighty.
Oh, come on. Haven't you ever seen Top Gear? They get a dog and they call it Top Gear Dog.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
I have no words right now.
Well, my second suggestion was Draconi.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's probably way better than Pit Lane Parlay Dog.
I have been saying host Mike since you told me about the dog week.
That's worse
but
than
we
Pit
already
Lane
have
Parlay
a host
Dog.
Mike.
Who the hell wants to name a dog Host Mike?
How about Lil J Fry?
How about just like Lil JF for short?
Yeah, there you go, Lil J.
Little J.
I need Jay to autograph his little Pit Lane Parlay t-shirt that he's gonna have.
Little J.
Okay, well, clearly Mike wins this round because Lil J is way better than Pit Lane Parlay Dog.
Come on, Draconi's not so bad.
No, Draconi is better than Pit Lane Parlay Dog. I will give you that.
He might be super slow anytime you walk him out, but you know.
Kind of. Yeah, he's not a fan
extremely
of snow.
slow. I mean, if we name it Little J, it's going to do everything correct. So
we're going to name it Little J.
I think this is also the first Jess's Joker Lap that I've ever won, so I'm feeling very happy right now. I have to say, on Matt's birthday, I have won something.
Yeah, I didn't win anything. I mean, I'm sure Jake Neely out there is yelling into his radio or whatever. Marco, name it Marco.
No, its name's not going to be Marco, but I am still taking suggestions. So once I name him officially, I will post that on social media for all of you who are following his progress. Right now, we're just calling him Hot Mess Disaster, Dumpster Fire Monkey, whatever. I don't know, but he's a mess.
It's delved into a lot of things. Ooh, what about Little Fry?
We could just call him French Fry.
French Fry?
How about Frenchy Fry?
Michael Goodyear hasn't turned into the dog. Well, with that being said, now I will try to stump the host. I am sorry for false starting before. Since we've been talking about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I figured we would ask a couple, I think, easier questions. Maybe they're tricky, from back all the way at the beginning of Indianapolis Motor Speedway history.
There's 200 horse posts.
Yeah, we're not doing horse posts. Don't worry. I couldn't find that evidence in my research today.
Hot air balloons.
No.
Motorcycle race.
Okay,
1911.
you both lose. The question is over. The original proposed length of the circular track was between what mile and what mile? How long did Carl Fisher want the track to be?
2 and 3.
Close-ish. Matt's giving me a no idea. So
1 and 2. All right.
No, Jess wins. It was between 3 to 5 miles.
Oh.
Got 2 more for you here. So Indianapolis is considered the second speedway to have been built. The first was what speedway built outside of London in 1907? All right, that would be the Brooklyn Speedway, which was open from 1907 to 1939, I think. All right, let's see if I can find an easy one for you here, easier one, because I thought those two were relatively easy, but I obviously was incorrect there. Nope, that one would be way too tough. Okay, let me ask you this one here. And this is let's just say this is before 1940. I'll help you guys out a little bit. The first diesel car to enter the Indy 500 took place in what pre-1940 year?
You say
1938.
I changed my mind. I wanted to make it tough. No, not 1938. A little before that.
1935.
It was 1931 by Dale Evans in his Cummins Diesel Special, and he completed the entire 500 miles without a pit stop. So we shall continue on the episode.
God, I don't want to know what your hard questions are.
That's no lie.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, I mean, we got a couple quick items to kind of touch on here. We don't need to spend too much time on it. Just some things we saw in the news. First of all, Sebastian Bourdais, Santino Ferrucci, and as Mike correctly guessed on one of our last episodes, Pato O'Ward took part in a test at Sebring. O'Ward drove for the newly formed Aero McLaren Schmidt-Peterson, and they all gave great reviews about the screen, and they said the visibility was good. Pato in particular was, I wouldn't say complaining. He was being a little critical of the ducting to get some cool air into the car. I believe Aero McLaren posted a video just kind of recapping the day in which he said that if you're not going fast, the ducting doesn't work and you get super hot. So still obviously some work to be done there, but it sounds like great strides are still being made. One thing I did want to get your guys' take on is that new livery that they have, Aero McLaren Schmidt-Peterson has just for testing. I just wanted to get your guys' take on that. If you like it, if you don't like it, if you think testing liveries are pointless, what are you guys' thoughts about it?
I gagged a little bit. I wasn't a fan at all. I know a lot of people were. I get what they were doing. They wanted to distinguish themselves, and they haven't come up with what they're going to do next year. And that's fine. I can appreciate that, but I did not care for what they did come up with. I don't know. I saw everybody saying anything from camo to a cheetah, and I didn't see any of that. I just saw really bad colors thrown together haphazardly.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I wouldn't say I loved it, but it was kind of fun, for a testing livery versus the typical black with maybe Penske written on the side or something like that. So I'll give them that. At least there was some creativity to it. I did like what Pato had to say because it was some good constructive feedback that at least we haven't heard to the public until then. And I'm sure they'll probably end up with some sort of NASCAR style air hose on the helmet that can be attached to either the aeroscreen or something to improve the airflow when they're under caution and there's not a constant high stream of airflow to cool them down. So all around pretty good there.
I loved it. I thought the livery was amazing. I think that kind of stuff is pretty exciting for me. I just am a big livery guy. I love looking at new cars, new designs. I mean, even if they came out with something that I thought was ugly, I still would appreciate their effort because I think those kind of things do generate buzz, and they get to do a reveal, and it's I thought it looked better than what Coin had, which was kind of a weaker version of Bourdais' car last year. So I appreciated it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool, and definitely one of the more creative ones I've seen. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll agree there. Just trying to think if there's anything else. It was good to see that Oliver was kind of observing out in the mounds and getting some different spots there. And I do want to give myself a pat on the back for getting that one right.
It's not cool if you do it for yourself.
Yeah, that's fair. So Simona Di Silvestro came up in the news late last week that she was no longer taking part in the Australian Supercar Series. She will have a test role in Formula E. But Marshall Pruitt did also say at least one IndyCar team has reached out to her about driving an IndyCar again. What do you guys think about Simona? Does she, I don't want to say deserve a second chance, but would you like to see her get a second chance in IndyCar? Do you think it's possible?
No. Not the possibility part. I think she had a couple moments where I thought, wow, she's pretty talented and she does a lot of good things on the track. But as a whole, I know she had some years where she had some poor equipment, but as a whole, she never wowed me as much as she did some other fans out there. I think her toughness was very admirable. She came back from some really heavy accidents and performed well, but as a whole, I don't think her pace was enough for me to warrant her to come back to this series full time.
Yeah, I tend to kind of lean that same way. I think she has potential, so I wouldn't be opposed necessarily, but I think that there are people who have more experience in the car, than she does. And I think it would be hard to beat them out unless she just comes with an extreme amount of money, which she could. I mean, I've seen crazier things happen. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think that there are better options currently available right now.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Jess. And I have nothing against Simona, but, also like Matt said, she had some flashes of brilliance here and there, but overall, I don't feel like it was, oh my God, we have to have her back, right away in IndyCar. So, if it happens, great. If not, I'm probably not going to lose any sleep over this. I guess the other news of note this week before we get to some fan questions, everybody's favorite Fred watch is now back on the market. Or I should say, back on the Fred watch alert. Michael Andretti reached out to Fernando about driving in Indianapolis. So I guess question one is, I guess that brings up the whole 7-car thing again. And question two is, where does that leave the potential for Connor Daly and Indy in 2020?
Oh boy. There's a lot in that question. Back to the 7-car thing. Can they? Sure. Should they? Probably not. If they're going to, probably Fernando. And yes, I see Connor being out. It would be hard, very hard, in my opinion, to say no to Alonso because I just don't. I mean, I love Connor, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, it's kind of curious to see what happens to Connor if that does happen. However, I'm of the belief that I don't understand why Alonso would leave McLaren if, as long as both parties are happy, because I do think they'll be leaps and bounds ahead of where they were last year when they show up at Indy. Given that they'll basically be together the team will be cohesive and together 3 months prior to that, as far as just getting some season experience under their belt so they don't show up to Indy with the wrong papaya orange or whatever they do. So things like that should be wrinkled out. And, especially if Connor has the Air Force money. I mean, Connor could take his Air Force money and go somewhere else, I guess, for Indy. But I think that both parties were pretty happy with how it went last year. So I think Alonso would just go back to spam and Connor would just stick with Andretti and with that 7th car.
Yeah, I see Alonso staying with McLaren. Just kind of makes the most sense from everybody involved perspective, both from the team and the driver. I don't think they're going to end a relationship after his, whatever they call that contract he has, this year with them where he's not driving. He's an advisor or whatever. But, I'm sure Connor Daly will find something, with whatever money he has from Air Force or, any other sponsor that pops up. So I think he should be okay to find a drive, at least for Indy, although I'm sure he would much rather be an Andretti ride. So I guess we shall see. On to the fan questions.
Yeah, we got a couple of them tonight. The first one is going to be from Andrew Barker at F1 Andrew. So with Penske taking over IndyCar, do you think that IndyCar can regain some of the fans that were lost in the split? And do you think that F1 should be possibly worried about it?
Yes, they should. The fact is IndyCar is moving in the right direction here in every sense of the word. And I think, Roger Penske's, business skills and Rolodex are going to pay huge dividends for IndyCar as a whole. I'm not saying F1 is, having as rough as the years as NASCAR is, but every time F1 tries to add a new race in Miami somewhere else, it gets shut down by some old lady on some committee. So they're definitely not getting better. So if F1 is worried about the North American market now, they should be more worried in the near future.
So for part one of the question, I think that if a fan wouldn't have come back when IndyCar merged in 2008, I don't see this announcement bringing them back. I think that might be a stretch. I do think that IndyCar can continue their slow but gradual increase of TV ratings, social media presence, and, kind of just the following that IndyCar has, I think, has slightly been going up year by year. So that's definitely a good thing. And I don't see this deal hurting that. I still think that trend will continue to go on. Should F1 be worried? Probably not. They're kind of kings of the castle when it comes to open wheel racing. And they hopefully have that new car coming in 2021, which I'm excited for, but I also can see the potential for that to reinvigorate F1 into being some premier entertainment because, at the moment it's not very good, but I do see a lot of potential for them to be much stronger in the entertainment marketplace in a couple of years.
You kind of just brought it up with saying that they're not very good at entertainment right now. F1 is obviously struggling on the entertainment side of things. I think that they are gaining a little bit in some fan driver interaction. I'm not saying it's good by any means, but I think they are trying to make gains. So I do want to applaud them for that. As far as, do I feel like it's going to regain fans that were lost? Probably not at this point. There's been so many years between then and now, and people have found, if they haven't come back, they've found other avenues to get their fix, be it NASCAR, F1, dirt track racing, whatever. They have kind of probably found their, home, so to speak. So I don't necessarily think that we're going to gain a lot of fans back with Penske taking over. But I do think that F1 maybe could lose some fans, especially if next year goes really well, because the entertainment there has been a little bit less than stellar the last few years. And then we do have one more question, and this one's going to come from some author, Stephen King, that we know pretty well. Do you guys think that drivers are now going to sit higher in the cockpit due to the aeroscreen, for vision purposes or whatnot?
No, I don't see so with the current crop of drivers. I do see that maybe taking place, let's say, if they start to introduce it, down in the F2000 or other series where a driver would start out sitting higher. But I feel like a driver is going to kind of stick with what they're comfortable with. And so I don't see someone who's been driving for 15, 20 years, kind of like a Bourdais or a Dixon, changing all of a sudden just because they added an aeroscreen. I don't think they were sitting lower for safety reasons. I think it's just kind of like a comfort thing. So I don't foresee too many drivers switching it up.
Yeah, neither do I. I mean, even somebody who hasn't been driving for 15 years, and Santino Ferrucci mentioned that he didn't really have any vision concerns after his afternoon of testing last week. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a guy might try it to see if it's a little different, if he's overheating a little too much one weekend. But I think for the most part, the guys are going to stick with where they are with the design of the aeroscreen, and whatever they add in ducting wise for cooling, I think will solve any, moving up and down the cockpit for, cooling reasons.
Frankly, if we're talking about just right now, right off the bat, with this current chassis, there's pretty much no way they can sit higher. It would be a really awkward angle for your legs because of the way that everything is currently in the cockpit. So I don't think it's going to happen. It could happen when the new chassis comes out and everything is, not retrofitted and everything like that. So it could happen down the road. Do I see it happening next year? No. And I don't know. Even then, I think I just don't see a whole lot of benefit to it, especially if they're going to do the little strip on the top where they can put the sponsors at. It's moving them up is just going to, impede their vision from the top side then. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Thanks for those fan questions. Really good questions this week. Going to do a quick super duper secret host question to surprise these two. It's something that Mike just touched on with Hinchcliffe. Got me thinking that with Hinchcliffe, there was news that came out from Norris McDonald, and we may want to precursor that by saying maybe take this with a grain of salt because I don't think it's been confirmed anywhere else. And Norris is a big Hinch guy. But Norris McDonald of The Star came out and said that Arrow McLaren Schmidt Peterson will continue to pay James Hinchcliffe his salary of what's estimated at $500,000 a year. But to earn it, he will have to be at the track, at their hospitality tents and shake hands with people and talk about racing and whatnot to earn that money. First of all, I just kind of want to know your general thoughts on that. And second of all, do you think he will fulfill his duties if he wants that salary?
I'm going to start with your second question first. Yes, because $500,000 is a lot of money. And he would be very silly to kind of blow it off and, maybe hurt his rep around the paddock a little bit. Second, what are my general thoughts? I know when this came out, there was a lot of people that were unhappy with it. Oh, how could they do that? I mean, they're willing to pay him still, to do something while he doesn't have a ride. So I personally don't particularly have an issue with it. I understand the frustration by Hinch fans and other IndyCar fans out there, but the dude's getting paid, and getting paid can only help him stay around the paddock more, which can only lead to potential ride opportunities in the future. So from my point of view, I really don't have a problem with it.
Would now be a good time or a bad time to say, I told you so, when we talked about he was still under contract? And you guys thought I was being absolutely nuts.
No, I wasn't. I was a little skeptical, but I didn't call you like foolish or anything like that. I don't think Mike did either.
No, you both kind of looked at me like I was absolutely out of my mind.
I was more surprised at it because I hadn't thought about it from that angle, I guess.
I don't know, man. I always think of the contract angle first. I think it's just because I've been around this for so long that it just automatically pops up in my mind. Anyways, so obviously, I thought of this before. I thought he would be some sort of driver coach, not like a glorified hospitality, for lack of a better way of putting it. I know he's going to be more than that, so please don't at me. But I think he would be silly to not take it if he doesn't find a full-time ride. I think that this would be a good opportunity, like you said, to keep his face around the paddock, to keep kind of in the know of what's going on with different things that are going on, engineering wise. There's always changes and getting input about what the new tires are like, or what this is like, or what that's like. So he can kind of bank that away in case he doesn't get a full-time ride. He can kind of keep all that information in a quote unquote running tab in his head for the next season. So I think that if an opportunity doesn't present itself, I think that he should 100% continue to carry out his contract. First of all, it'll make him, I guess, the bigger person, for lack of a better word, in this whole scenario, because I know a lot of people are not super thrilled with what's going on, but I think it'll be good in the long run.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that what Spam did as far as the announcement, and then kind of in this sense, wouldn't say it's kind of put a poor taste in your mouth per se. It's kind of just a bad deal all around, except for the part where you get paid $500,000. And for $500,000, that's really, like, obviously your dream is to drive and you want to be a race car driver and you want to, be on track and win races and whatnot. But you're also getting paid $500,000 to go around and shake hands. And to me, that doesn't seem like a bad deal from that angle, so long as it's not like a permanent thing. And if something does come up where Carlin or Ganassi or whoever offers you a ride, obviously you would want to take it. But if nothing else happens, getting $500,000 for one season and then kind of reassess where we are next year doesn't seem like the worst deal to happen to me. So I'll be interested to see if he makes a comment publicly about it. He hasn't yet. And then obviously we'll have to keep tabs on what he ends up doing around the paddock next year, should he not be in a ride with any team.
Yeah, very well said. So with that, we will jump into the pitfalls here momentarily. This week brought to you by our friends at gripmat.com, the world's first flexible non-slip tool mat. If you go to their website, gripmat.com, use promo code PLP10 for 10% off.
And now it's time for Pit Lane Parlay's Pitfalls of the Week.
And with that, I will start it off. F1 came out today and said they want to be net zero in the carbon emissions by, 2025. And everything they mentioned in the article was about, the on-track product, how they were trying to lower carbon emissions there. And that was the big emphasis. And then actually an editor for motorsport.com put out some numbers that the on-track carbon emissions from a F1 car is only 0.7% of the carbon emissions of, that they release as a whole. Most of it is the, tons and tons of hospitality equipment and, hospitality cities that F1 has. And so maybe F1 isn't really thinking about this in the right way. So I was just, I wouldn't have thought much of this without, the motorsport.com editor kind of coming out and saying something online, but maybe they're not approaching this in the right way.
Yeah, I don't honestly know enough about it to make a comment, but it does kind of sound like, if you're flying, a couple jumbo jets worth of equipment to and from 22 venues a year, kind of seems a little counterproductive a little bit.
Yeah, not only are they flying the equipment, but I'm sure half the people fly private jets, which is even more. And there's a lot of other areas that they could look at to cut down some of their emissions, including even after they land those jets, both jumbo and private. They still got to move the equipment around from the airport to the track location. Semis, even though I work in that industry, can be pretty bad. They're making better ones. But things like that, they could look at some different ways to go about it. The actual race cars are not really the big issue there.
Matt, why don't you jump in next?
All right. Well, mine's about James Hinchcliffe again. This one is about this new line of apparel that came out. One of the things he's been tweeting has been about challenge accepted hashtag, in the fact that, obviously he got signed out of a ride with the McLaren thing, and now he came out with a line of apparel, and I have 3 things that I don't like about it. First of all, he's going to look kind of foolish if in 3 weeks he has a ride with somebody. If Rahaal's scrapping together a deal or whatnot and decides, hey, we got money from Honda, plus I got this other money. Do you want to come drive with us? All right, challenge 1. 3 weeks later, what's the point of this now? My second problem with it is I think the logo looks terrible. And I think if someone sees a shirt with CA on it, they're not going to know what the heck it's about. It doesn't say. Some of them do say Hinch on them, and some of them really don't say Hinch on them. So I think, 5 years from now, it's going to be like, what was that about again? And my third problem is the prices are absurd. Why on earth would anybody pay $35 for a T-shirt? Who is there a market for this? Are like people actually buying this stuff? I think it's just kind of like a quick money grab to make light of a situation that's, very unfortunate for Hinch, but to kind of do this and to quickly try to make a few bucks off of it kind of puts a poor taste in my mouth. So I honestly, all around, I don't really like it.
Yeah, the prices, I looked at them and choked up a little bit. The design is kind of meh. So yeah, I see your point there, and can't really argue that one. So I guess we'll wrap it up with Jess for this week.
Well, let me just throw in my opinion also. You guys do that every week.
Every week, Mike.
Every week. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either, but can I just kind of flip that on its head and say that Robert Wickens today came out with his own line of apparel, and I really appreciate it.
No, he can have my money. So
that's kind of just, I just wanted to flip it on its head there and say that I really like Robert's stuff. Also a little pricey, but I like the look, and I don't feel like I'm, I don't know.
They just look cool. Like they just look.
They look better, and I just am not a big, huge fan of the message behind James's. I guess is I just, at least Roberts, I feel like he's, I don't know, he's just an inspiration, honestly. But anyways, we'll move on to mine. I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I saw among various other social media post when the whole Penske thing came out last week. I saw things such as, are we going to be able to take our cooler in the track? And I'm not going to go to the 500 ever again. Like within an hour of the announcement, literally nothing has been decided at this point. It's not even actually inked and done deal. And if you're really concerned about being able to take your cooler into the track, then maybe you're going to the track for the wrong reason. I mean, I understand that the drinks can be expensive and things like that, but if you need to take a whole case of beer inside your cooler to the track, then maybe I don't know. Maybe we just can't get along on this. But the person who said like immediately that they weren't ever going to go to the 500 again. Why? He hasn't changed anything. He hasn't even talked about changing anything. So what sense does that make? So I guess we'll just call it the immediate hatred toward this deal that is being done.
Well, if that's even remotely an option, and just because somebody said it might be an option, I'm not going to the 500 this year.
You heard it here first. Mike Jokum won't be there.
Does that mean I get my house to myself for the month of May?
No, I'll still be there.
Damn it.
You're coming just to stay with Jess.
I'm just the dog walker.
I mean, okay, I'll use you.
Yeah, I think, man, it's just one of those things where when a deal like this gets announced, just stay off the Facebook comments, because there's probably someone out there somewhere saying that, Roger Penske's pitch strategy call in a race in 2005 is the reason they're not going to go to the Indy 500 ever again.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. But I guess it shouldn't surprise me, because people just like to hate on social media and in general anymore. So it's kind of shouldn't be shocking, but it still is mind-boggling.
Yeah, very well said. I guess that wraps it up for the week. So everybody, thank you again for listening. We'll be back next week. And Jess, why don't you go ahead and sign us off?
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.